Okay, they really don't. That's the thing with, I think, people in today's world, and from all walks of life, all races, all creeds, etc. There are extreme individuals on the end spectrum of things in each culture that do not care, that do not have a conscience, and do not see life as valuable or important and significant. And this is one of the largest, if not the biggest, challenges to conscious individuals, for people who are on the other end of the extreme, who have a conscience, right, that find life to be of value, to be of significance, to do your best, to take it seriously, right, and whatnot. And so for myself, I'd like to consider myself more of a conscious individual, that on the other spectrum, for the people on the other extreme spectrum of things that do not have a conscience about life or anything for themselves or responsibility, it can really almost sometimes drive you insane, I would say. Levels and elements to this. I mean, you could also look in the fact that this country in itself, all countries around the world, where they do not honor the sacred or the individual or the soul or the spirit, or they do not work towards consciousness and growth and responsibility and self-actualization and awareness and sensitivity and, you know, whatever it is, and a godly type of existence, then what you're going to get is people who are asleep, right? People that are not conscious, that are not awake, that have no concern for life itself, for the sacred, for the divine, you know, for the sentimental, for the, you know, and you find yourself in this kind of world, a world where really people are about power a lot of the time, worldwide. Like, it's not about love, it's about power, it's about control, it's about manipulation, right? And it's about corruption, it's about immorality, and whatever it is, and so that's what you get, and that's what we find in the world today at large, a very unethical, very immoral, very spiritually bankrupt world, okay? Very senseless, and how we can. And again, this is hard on the conscious individual. This is a real battle, if you want to call it. It's a real war on the mind and the being and the faith on the conscious individual. Constantly, you know, that the people of the more extreme unconscious individuals, right, immoral, unethical, unawake, unindividualized, you know, wounded, toxic individuals, that they are senseless, and their senselessness is something that for the conscious folk, it again can drive you mad, can drive you insane with frustration, anger, resentment, bitterness, and then that bitterness can lead to the meaning and purpose of life itself. Like, life has got, you know, this is all the injustices, this can't be the case, what the hell's going on here, how can the divine let this be this way, how can it be so extreme, how can life seem to have no value, how can nature have no value, how can tradition have no value, how can the future have no value, how can it be so bankrupt from consciousness, spirituality, meaning, purpose, beauty, etc. How can that be? And so that is the challenge for the individual, there's no question about it. How is it that power, a false sense of power in this world, whether it be government, people with money, politicians, massive pharmaceutical companies, medical professions, you know, the law profession, the educational market, whatever it may be, how can it be about power and at the cost of spirit, at the cost of of morality, of ethics, of principles, of virtues? How, you know, it doesn't seem like a worthwhile trade, because, you know, I mean, so we can't believe as conscious individuals, observers, that the world can be so dark, that there's so much darkness in people's lives. We can't believe it, and we can't believe it that again, human life can equate to have a money value attached to it. Like, we just can't believe it. You know, in other words, that, just have some Oh, my coffee, yeah. That we just can't imagine. How do you coexist in this duality? I think in this life, it's incomprehensible to the conscious person without an element of faith, right? And without an element of just flexibility and and surrendering and acceptance and to what the nature of this world has become about, or the potential nature and darkness of man. You see, this is what we cannot understand. We cannot understand it in our own personal lives when people do minor things to hurt us or disempower us, or that whatever it is. We can't believe it that people can sell us something, a drug. They have the cure, but they won't sell you the cure. They'll just sell you the how you can not have the disease kill you, basically, to make what I mean. Like, so there's cures. There's no question about it. But the pharmaceutical companies are not going to make money off the cures. They're not prevention either. They're not making money off that. And we know this, and so we just can't believe it that the world is a business. It's so hard to come to terms with, and that human themselves are commodity in regards to however many people amounts to however many dollar bills. It's like I can't understand that. It's just to understand that people can be sacrificed for the purpose of financial gain. Lives can be at risk, at stake, questioned, threatened, because for financial gain, for power gain. And again, that power is so irrelevant in this life, because you don't take that physical power with you. I'm saying the material power and the material success with you. So it's like that. It's just too hard. So it's just for the conscious. It's just so hard. It's how do you understand all these world wars that go on, right? How do you understand the propaganda that goes on? How do you understand the leeching off of life, of energy, of spirit, of soul from individuals, right? To be turned into, like the sweat of the brow, the potential of the human being turned into machines. How do we understand that? How do we live with that day in and day out, right? And so this is the question of faith. When I mention faith, it's not it's not just a word, right? But it's an absolute practice that will break your heart at majority of the time. Will bring you to your knees majority of the time, right? Because again, what you feel, what you work for, what you stand for, which is the good, right? Which is the virtuous, which is the moral, which is the justice. What you stand for, the purity, the innocence, the protectedness, what you stand for, right, is brought into question daily by others around you, by the majority of the world that surrounds you, from the beginning of history to a degree, right? It's brought into question. It's like the man who sold the world, right? I mean, I know that there's people in this government, right, that literally, I just know people in this country that even if you said to them, look, because there's an energy crisis at the moment in this country, in the whole world, for electricity, and if the people in charge, the government who's in charge or somewhat in charge of the electricity in this country, called Eskom, which is more of a somewhat private company, but it's bailed out by government all the time, and I think it's a branch of government. No one's, I'm not quite sure about it, but the fact that people are taking money from the government, taxpayers' money, in order to upgrade and keep the electricity, the grid, the electrical grid going, because it's on breakdown, right? it's been the money that's been supposed to have gone into keeping the it functioning, the electricity board function, has been corrupted, right? It's the same thing with hospitals, how governments have stolen money from that's supposed to go for building of clinics and hospitals, right? And for building of roads or maintaining of roads like bridges. I was watching another show, whatever it is on YouTube about South African bridges in the main cities and how they are faulty and how they're unsustainable, and the money that is supposed to have gone into the maintenance of those bridges has been siphoned off into corruption, into other people's pockets, right? And what are these people buying that are corrupting? They're taking the money. They're buying Gucci bags. They're buying Ferraris and Lamborghinis and houses in the Maldives and Maldives, and Mauritius and whatever it is overseas. And that's what they're doing. And they're drinking fine champagne and whatever it is. And that's it. So they've taken the money that is supposed to go for not only maintaining the electrical grid and hospitals, but they've taken it for themselves. And so the country's on a meltdown. The world is on a meltdown, folks. There's no question about it. The world is. We cannot believe that people can destroy, rape, pillage for their own comforts, for their own sense of power, worldwide. We cannot understand it. We cannot, for the more of the sensitive of the food people, I'm sensitive, like I could never watch one of these shows on factory farming or something or other, how cows are kept, or chickens or something like that, or pigs or whatever it is. I can't watch these shows. I think the Earthlings were one of them. I can't watch it. Depresses me and frustrates me and angers me, which it should. But I choose not to know. It's just, but I'm saying even for those people, let's say somebody who is vegan, okay, I'm not vegan myself, I'm more of a vegetarian or pescatarian, and but for somebody who's so sensitive to read about the statistics of how many animals are killed. I think I was in a vegan shop the other day and it had all these numbers of figures, written on the wall. There was this poster like saying that how many animals are killed a day for human consumption, right? It was just absolutely scary. And like, if you're sensitive, so I'm saying somebody who's even a vegan and who's looking into this information, it will break your heart. You cannot understand, because again, you've taken more of a moral high ground in your own life, right? Which is each to their own. And you've taken a moral high ground, and then because you've taken the moral higher ground, you're seeing the immorality of things. You're seeing how animals are treated, and so you are opening yourself up for absolute heartbreak. Absolute heartbreak. Okay, so now I'm moving on to another topic here in a sense, but like, the more conscious you become, the more sensitive you become, the more vulnerable you become in certain ways, which you need to be, the more exposed you are going to be to the illnesses of the world. So let's not think for 1 second, folks, that awakening consciousness is all about, love and light. It's just simply not, folks. It's absolutely simply not. The more the moral high ground that you take, the more the weight of the reality of the world is going to be on your shoulders and weigh on your heart and break your heart. So we know that, okay? But again, I can't sometimes come to terms about how dire and despair things are getting and how extreme they are getting. I need to lend myself to the possibility that we are in a Kali Yuga, we are in a darker time, and we are in a transitioning time. And so it is necessary, all is necessary for what needs to take place on the next evolutionary rung on the ladder, step on the ladder. It needs to take place. It has to take place. Okay, that's where I got to stretch my imagination to and my heart to say, okay, this is not this is okay at times. Some days I am okay with it. But ultimately it needs to be for some kind of... I can't believe that humanity could have come all this way, through all the suffering, all the challenges, all the heartbreaks. I mean, through the discomforts of living within the wild, and also the comforts that do come with it, the connectedness to nature. But I'm saying what humankind has had to go through in order to get to this place in history, in order for it all to go down to ash. Well, maybe that is so. Maybe it is so, because maybe what we do is that, we carry the growth and the greatness that we've achieved as humankind, or for some of us, the legacy that's been passed down of greatness, of virtues, of morality, of practice, of ritual practice, shamanistic ways of living, etc. Traditions, in a sense, that have been passed down and have been anchored in the heart. And what's happened is that we've uploaded all of this, the finer goodies, the finer experiences, the moral high grounds, the soul expansion, we've uploaded it to the cloud, let's say. And so when the human flesh departs, and let's say the human beings depart from this planet, in a sense where they just die off, they don't, leave for the stars, but they just die off, that there is some kind of, how would you say it? Well, yeah, there's been some kind of upload happened to the, what do you call it? Where you plug into the shamanic, not shamanic, the Schumann resonance, the something or other, is another name for it. But that it was all uploaded, in a sense, to the source. Currently now, this conversation, is uploaded. Even the fact that the goodness is uploaded, the consciousness is uploaded, the sustainable energies that we've discovered are uploaded, the methods of healing are uploaded, right? That which man has discovered is all uploaded and never truly lost. I mean, who knows how this dynamic is possibly working? Maybe we're feeding it to other human consciousness on some other planet, maybe and they're being inspired by what we are going through in such difficult times, such challenging times. Perhaps I'm just saying that it's being transmitted into the subconscious, into the dreams of human beings who are living on another planet, or another dimension. I mean, it can get so far out. We don't know what is going on here. We have no idea. We're seeing it from such a small perspective that it's impossible for us to try and understand what could be going on. And so the thing is that maybe this world is going extinct because perhaps 5 other planets don't have to go extinct. You see, we are learning from the extremes here and passing it on, okay, and uploading it. And so it's being downloaded into the consciousness, in the with Rupert Sheldrake, the morphogenetic fields. It's being uploaded to the morphogenetic fields, and our consciousness, our awareness, our psychedelic trips, our dark nights of the soul, right? Our psychology, our philosophy, whatever it is all being uploaded constantly, and maybe even just stored for future generations. Who knows how on earth it works? How cosmically it might work, we just do not know. We cannot know in the flesh right now, And so an element of faith has to go, because it can get so dark. It's like, again, how on earth if there is such an intelligent design that it's uploading our consciousness in a way, or again the novelty of our experiences, into some kind of Gaia mainframe or something like that, or hard drive in a sense, which is again being activated and downloaded by other individuals or human beings or wherever it is elsewhere. Let's just say on that possibility, that there's such a divine intelligence about things, that all of it is actually being saved, that all of it is actually for good reason in rhyme, even though the planet might go extinct, even though we might, in some lab, some guy invents some kind of virus by mistake, and he wants to, make money off it, to hold a small city ransom or something like that. You see this in the movies where they develop some kind of bacterial virus that can easily airborne, that can easily spread, and the guy's like saying, okay, we're gonna let it go if we don't get this type of money, type of thing. And who knows? I'm just giving a poor example here, and lets the virus loose, and then takes out, whoops, it got, because that's what it is. That's what is going on this planet. The immorality, the desire for the money and for the power and for the corruption is a virus already unto the world. It's destroying the very planet we live on. So it is a type of virus already, right? Because it's not sustainable for everybody, at least. Maybe for more of the upper class or something or other, they can fend off all the changes that are going on climately or whatever it is, or with the oceans rising, or if they're not right, who knows, whatever it is, overpopulation. So certain classes perhaps, but that's something else. Again, it's all up for. But regardless, even if human life on Earth does not continue for the next, let's say, 100,000 years, because the planet needs to replenish itself and refresh itself and and heal itself, and once human beings are extinct and gone, and it can get things going again, that still wasn't for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. Energy is converted, I feel, constantly. I mean, if you look at, for myself, I used to have a peach tree in one of the houses that I lived in. Every year it would produce the most beautiful of peaches, and it would be such a performance from winter where all the leaves, autumn where all the leaves turned brown, fell off, died, whatever it was. The tree looked so miserable, so cold, so alone, and whatnot. And then came the spring. It suffered through the winter, made it through the winter, came the spring, and rejuvenated, and the greenery returned, and the blossoms returned, and the bees visited, and just was such a tremendous, beautiful transition. And then the peaches arrived, the most delicious peaches, and then the peaches, I couldn't eat all of them and gave away what I could, and the rest of them just rotted, and the leaves turned brown again, the bees went away, whatever it was, and it died, in a sense. Well, it didn't die, but in all of it, for what? For just a couple of peaches. All this effort, just for, I said, why can't it be like this the whole year round, right? What a tremendous feat, just for a couple of peaches. So you think how much energy is going into that. But the thing is that the peaches are being enjoyed, are being consumed, and being transferred into a different type of energy by human consumption, or by the soil, right, or by the birds. So it's feeding, it's always feeding something off, right? So its process is always producing, it's always feeding. So the energy is being converted and transformed, even though it's just a couple of peaches. Yes, and also the leaves at the same time. And also the fact, you can think of it, that the tree offers a place for shade in the summer for animals, and a place for birds to nest and to make their home and whatever it is. But my point being is that it's a whole lot of effort, let's just say, just for some peaches, which only last for about a month of the year, right? And so, okay, bad example, but again, it's energy transfer. It's an energy type of transfer that's going on. So it doesn't die. It doesn't die. And so that's the thing, is that if the planet does take a nosedive, which it is, and it's irrecoverable, and there is no type of malevolent or benevolent interaction or involvement from who knows which dimension, from who knows where, right, that human beings themselves are not going to correct their ways. We are not going to get it right if there is no kind of intervention of some sort or another, outside, extraterrestrial, whatever it might be. There's just no ways that we will get it right. Okay, whether they be a benevolent force, who knows? But the stakes are so high, and the train is the brakes have failed on this what do you call a train, this runaway train, that it's not going to change on its own accord. And so that's what we face. Either we face some kind of extraterrestrial invention, right, or that's it. The jig is up. There's just no ways. I don't know what the extraterrestrials will even do, or whatever it is, but etc. So that's how close we are, right? And I'm saying for any, okay, so maybe some people will survive. Maybe we'll create VR, virtual realities. People can, live in their bunkers underground or whatever it is, and be in their VR worlds and carry on life living in some kind of dome underground or something like that. But what kind of life would that be? You see what I'm saying? What kind of life would that be? In other words, even if there has to be some kind of continuation of the human species, it's going to be post-apocalypse, which is not going to be easy for any sensitive individual to sort of bear the weight of. You know what I mean? Good chance that everybody you know, or most people that you know, have died, right? What on earth would the world look like? It's a morbid thought, folks, to think what it would be like if you survived the apocalypse. It would be a morbid thought. What would it seem like? What would it be like? And not only that, so what kind of human existence would there kind of be? What kind of life would there be without nature, let's say? With a burnt planet, what would it be? And so the business as usual is often the life as we know it, the nature of things, as history has gone about for I don't know how many millions or hundreds of thousands of years, whatever it is over. It's over. The time has come, the sun has set, it's done. Whether it's in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, 50, 100 years, 150 years, I can't imagine 150 years, without some kind of heavy technological intervention, right, or something or other, some kind of mass awakening, psychic, from the psyche, waking or something or other, forget about it. So the nature as we know it is finished. Already history as we know it is finished. It's being dissolved as quickly as the present is happening. As we can't focus, there is no time to consider the old or history, because the current times now, there's so much happening, we are so overwhelmed, and there's so much novelty that history has become irrelevant. It really has. And that's the first time in human history that human beings have had to live without history. History was the way that human beings survived. It was the stories, it was the knowing of the plants, it was the knowing of the weather cycles, it was knowing of the animals, it was knowing of the traditions, the rituals, etc. But now it's irrelevant in a sense, but that's something else. Anyway, so I'm going on a ramble here. So anyway, that's how I see it. Anyway, so coming back and maybe ending off here is that greatness is preserved within the soul of man and woman, in human beings. Greatness is preserved on a soul level, right? And that's what's important to remember here, is that, sometimes I think is even fighting for the good worthwhile. Like trying to bring consciousness to people, saying to them the dangers of Wi-Fi, like I said, having a cell phone tower, put up a few, houses down the road from me, and trying to fight that and bring awareness to people, or trying to, when I've had injustices in my own life, or let's say the story with my friend Tabo, whose father has died out of malpractice. I think that's the word, malpractice, from them giving him wrong blood. I mean, how do you get something so simple that wrong, that killed somebody, and saying, well, you can't even, let's get a lawyer on it, let's fight till our last breath to stand up for what we believe in is true. Like, sometimes is the fight necessary? Because again, most of the time you're not going to win, right? And so for myself, some fights are necessary because it might make you sad and you might lose, but it also might make you great at the same time. And that's what I think, if you ask me, what the human story and narrative is about. First and foremost, one of the highest, how would I say, not priorities or points or meaning, perhaps, maybe something like that, is greatness, is the potential for greatness. Because the way I said is that because the world is so dark and so not in a state of greatness, that small acts of greatness, even over the whole of human history, those that have found greatness, and it's been preserved, is that what it's been about? It's about human greatness, which is soul immersed in spirit. It's an alchemy, but it's about greatness, folks. So ask yourself, what thoughts, what belief, what actions, choices make you great? What inspires you and what makes you great? And through the times especially that we're going through now. Alright folks, I think I'll end off on that for now. Much longer than I anticipated this talk, but for some of you, maybe I reckon 15% of the amount of views that I get on this video will have made it this far, so I do appreciate you taking the time. I really do, and for being on this journey with me. It's one hell of a ride, folks. Take care, much love.